Most people believe the Ottoman Empire fell because of invading armies, broken alliances, or the rise of European power. But the truth is far more unsettling. Long before foreign powers attacked its borders, the empire was being hollowed out from inside, quietly, slowly, and almost invisibly. Hidden deep inside the palace walls was a secret system designed to protect the empire from chaos. Instead, it erased the political strength, the leadership, and even the mental stability of its rulers. It was called the Caves, the Cage, and this secret, more than any war or revolution, became the silent force that cracked the dynasty from within. The Cage kicked off with a pretty basic fear, the fear of civil war. It's that gut-wrenching worry that things could spiral out of control. Ottoman succession was pretty wild. No set rules, and bloodshed happened all the time. To stop these internal massacres, sultans introduced the cave system. Princes were locked away inside the palace, forbidden to gain military experience, forbidden to build alliances, and in many cases, forbidden from even stepping outside their gilded prison. They lived in isolation, surrounded only by eunuchs, servants, and the echo of their own thoughts. The empire believed it was protecting them, but in truth, it was destroying what made a ruler capable of ruling. Imagine the effect this had. The Ottoman throne, once dominated by fierce battlefield, forged leaders like Mehmed the Conqueror, slowly became occupied by men who had never commanded an army. They were called sultans, but in truth, they were just trapped prisoners. By the time these princes inherited the throne, they carried the trauma of isolation. The empire that once dominated 3 continents suddenly found itself led by rulers prepared for nothing except survival inside a room. This weakness created the perfect environment for power struggles behind the scenes. As the sultans lost their grip, the people around them started getting stronger. The empire slowly shifted from a monarchy led by powerful rulers to a shadow government controlled by whispers, alliances, and hidden agendas. Courtiers, who once served the sultan, now acted as the true masters of the empire, pulling strings from behind silk curtains. Real authority began drifting away from the throne and into the hands of those who never carried its responsibility. Meanwhile, the world outside the palace was evolving faster than any sultan trapped inside the caves could comprehend. European powers advanced in science, weapons, ships, and strategy, while the Ottoman leadership remained frozen in time. Reforms came too late or collapsed before they began, because the rulers approving them had no real understanding of their importance. Armies lost battles, not because soldiers lacked bravery, but because their leaders lacked experience. Diplomacy failed not because the empire had no allies, but because its rulers couldn't grasp the world beyond their palace walls. Enemies grew stronger, not through conquest, but through the empire's own stagnation. And yet, the most tragic part is that none of this was intentional. The cage was created to save the dynasty, not destroy it. For a moment, it worked. Civil war stopped, princes were protected, and bloodshed inside the palace nearly disappeared. But every solution carries a cost, and this one demanded the future of the empire itself. Because an empire can survive invasion, it can survive rebellion, it can survive betrayal, but it cannot survive weak leadership repeated over generations. The Caifs produced rulers who wore crowns made for giants, yet carried the minds of prisoners. And with every passing decade, the once mighty Ottoman Empire became a shadow of the force that once shaped countenance. Corruption seeped into every chamber of power, filling the vacuum left by absent rulers. Weak leadership allowed corruption to spread through every corner of the palace. Powerful factions inside the imperial court fought for influence, each pulling the empire in a different direction. Military commanders lost respect for the throne, seeing sultans not as leaders, but as sheltered men shaped by confinement. Provinces drifted toward independence, feeling less loyalty to a ruler who had never stepped outside palace walls. European nations carved away Ottoman lands one slice at a time, taking advantage of an empire unable to respond. When the empire finally stumbled into the modern age, it entered not as a giant, but as a weakened shell supported by rulers who had never been allowed to become rulers. The consequences shaped the final centuries of the Ottoman story. The Ottoman state was no longer the unshakable force that once dominated 3 continents. In the end, the empire didn't collapse in a final dramatic battle or a single devastating event. It didn't fall because of one enemy or one war. It crumbled because a system built out of fear slowly drained its leadership from within. The cage produced generations of princes who stepped onto the throne already broken, and an empire built by warriors was ultimately undone by its own attempt to protect itself. The greatest threat the Ottomans ever faced was never an invading army. It was a prince sitting alone in a silent room, waiting to become sultan.